Hey everyone, this is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh, and he is,
And I am Chris.
and Chrissy is. We're here to talk about some more free agents. Let's start off the top. We got some breaking news. Breaking news. Big old trade happened this week. It doesn't involve players, but why don't you take it away, Chris?
So the 49ers move from 12 to 3. Yeah, from 12 to 3 spots.
Mm-hmm.
They gave up, get this, folks, a first, 2021 first, a 2022 first, and a 2023 first, and a 2021
Whoa.
third. So this
To the
bit
Dolphins, right?
to the Dolphins. So this business,
Well,
they're
no
giving,
wonder they did this trade. Okay, I completely understand why they did this trade now.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, because Dolphins either had no intention of taking quarterback, which is probably the case. I think they're giving Tua his fair shake, or it was just a offer they couldn't refuse. So
That's
all
an offer you
this
can't refuse right there.
exactly. So all this BS the Niners are giving us about Garoppolo being the guy is obviously not true.
Yeah,
It's
they're
just
going quarterback.
yeah, they're going quarterback. That's the only thing you pay up for. The I don't want to say the consensus, but the impression I get is at least the top three picks are going to be quarterbacks, maybe even the top four. We'll get to that later on in the offseason and whatnot. But so Dolphins go back to 12th and then back up to 6th. They also have the 18th pick. That's important to remember.
Hmm.
So the Philly Dolphins trade, Philadelphia Eagles and Dolphins trade was
Yeah,
pick
you totally made
12.
it sound like the Philly Dolphins.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Dolphins. Because we got lots of Dolphins in Philly. No,
Because they're a landlocked
the Eagles
city.
and Dolphins trade. So pick 12 and pick 123 for pick number 6 and 156.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
Dolphins back
from
up
Dolphins move back up from 12 to 6. And from what I read about that was that they didn't move back up to
for
get
QB.
a quarterback.
Mhm.
They moved back up to what people are speculating at the moment, at least, is to secure one of, if not the top wide receiver in the draft.
Wide receiver. Okay. See, I'm thinking
Yeah.
corner. I'm thinking defense, and then I niched it down a little bit to corner from my first couple days
No, it
reaction.
sounds like it sounds like they're doing. I thought they were moving back up to try and maybe get offensive line guy, not Penny Sewell. I forget the number two tackle in the draft, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe they're doing that. But what I read in a couple different spots is they're
Receiver.
looking at wide receiver. So okay,
There's a few of them. There's a few of them for sure. So,
um,
folks at home, I'm very much looking forward to getting down to dynasty and draft coverage in the next several weeks. So we'll get
speaking
more
of draft coverage,
on
Chris,
stuff
it
like that.
sounds like we're doing a live draft show on our Twitch channel.
That's
We
right.
will be together, the two of us,
In a
in the
room,
basement studio.
physically. Right. Yep.
In the basement studio. I mean, I that's awesome, dude. I haven't been anywhere and I don't know how long. This
Ditto.
stupid pandemic can go fly a kite, as my grandpa used to say.
Right there
Uh,
with you. Right there with you. So yeah,
yeah.
just another update. We'll be not this. I guess this coming Friday. Yeah, when this episode releases, will be this coming Friday. I'll be building your PC live on
Oh
twitch.tv forward
yeah.
slash hardware dynasty. Folks, check that out. We'll link it down in the description. At which time, once the PC is built, it'll be a handful of weeks, obviously, because we'll wait till draft time, which is end of April 29th, Thursday night.
Exactly one
And he'll
month and a
come
day from today.
and he'll come pick up said PC, which is of course to make said show to help with content creation, and
Mhm.
at which time we'll do our draft coverage, and it'll be more of a, as we've mentioned the last couple of weeks, it'll be more of a stream, fun, hangout, not a rigid matchups show or a draft coverage show or free agency show. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Yes. So we did, last week in our free agency coverage, we did quarterbacks and running backs, and I forgot to ask you, how are you doing today, Chris?
Oh, I'm doing great, doing great.
Great,
Always
great.
enjoy my Sunday mornings. Still, it is, because I get a chance to do the show. So always looking forward to that.
Cool, cool. So, like I said last week, we did quarterbacks and running backs and free agency. We had a few running back signings this past week, so let's dive into that real quick. You can let me know if you want to cover any of them. None of them are really top flight names, of
Mm,
course, but well, they're still worth mentioning.
sure.
Lenny Fournette, that would be Leonard Fournette, re-signed with the Bucks. That's okay. Mike Davis, he signed with the Atlanta Falcons. Um, yeah, okay. James White resigned with the Patriots. Matt Breida signed with the Bills. Tevin Coleman signed with the Jets, and Damian Williams signed with the Bears for some reason.
Hmm.
Anything there? Anything you want to cover there?
Damian Williams, he'd have ties back to. Wait, no, they have a new coach, don't they? Did they get rid of
Who?
Nagy? Is Nagy still there?
No,
Yeah, this is what I
no.
thought. Okay, so he used to be with Kansas City, so that's what I was thinking.
Like
I
a
don't know.
month ago, we did a we did a coaching
I
show,
know,
and
I
you
know.
thought that we
It just seems like he
you
wouldn't leave
thought
us
the Bears got a
alone.
new coach, and they didn't. Still
Uh,
haven't.
they still haven't. It's still Nagy.
No,
That's
still
off.
Nagy.
So that's
He's
the
still
tie.
nagging.
That's all I'm saying is that there's a tie there with Kansas City. Nagy came from under Reed in Kansas City, right? So
Yeah, but it was long enough ago. I don't know if he ever coached Damian Williams.
that might be true. But they know each other. They,
I thought this was maybe the most
sometimes
interesting
coaches do
one.
each other favors. Let's put it that way. Sometimes personnel
That
guys
like
do each
after
other
what
favors.
David Montgomery did last year, as far as production wise, like
Hmm.
sheer numbers, not the way he looked by any stretch of the imagination,
Yeah.
but just from sheer numbers wise, I thought it was weird that they signed Damian Williams, which is maybe like an expensive, a rich man's
Backup.
David
Oh,
Montgomery. You know,
yeah. Yeah. I think that's fair. I think that's good. Good way to put it.
um,
Need depth.
Mike
Need
Davis.
a
I
dependable
like. I kind of
backup.
like the Mike Davis move to Atlanta.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't he the starter as of now? I'm not saying he's gonna be. Just Gurley's gone.
Is
What's
he?
his face? Brian Hill's never
I
done
don't know if
anything.
Gurley is
Ito
gone.
Smith has never done anything as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, yawn.
So they might
I
grab
think that
somebody.
one's interesting as
It
far as
is.
like it could
It's
be.
up in the air.
It's I don't know. But Mike Davis can't carry a workload. He
Oh no,
showed
no,
that
no, no,
in
absolutely
Carolina last year, but he definitely can. He's a do it all guy. You
for sure,
know,
for sure. He's the one you
he's a
want.
jack of all trades guy. You know, I hate to keep using that phrase because I'm going to say it a couple times in this episode, but he is a jack of all trades guy. Doesn't do anything great, but he does it
Yeah,
all
yeah, yeah.
at a
I would
decent
agree.
level.
I would agree. So that's all the signing is. I don't think we intend Mike Davis to end up being the starter. I don't think they intend it, but they're what fourth in the draft. That's not running back territory. Better not be, as far as I'm concerned. So
There's
you'd
no.
have
I
to
don't think
look.
there's any running back in this draft that's worth it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
there's not a Saquon or a Zeke or
Or a
a
McCaffrey.
LaDainian Tomlinson. You know, and
Yeah.
LaDainian Tomlinson didn't even get drafted until the second round. So,
I was just gonna
and he's
say the end of the first,
one of
beginning
the
of the
best running
second
backs
is
ever.
end of the first, beginning of second is
We're not going into that
prime
discussion.
area. What's that?
I said LaDainian Tomlinson's like one of the best running backs ever, and we're not going into that discussion.
No, no, we're not. But no, end of first, beginning of second is perfect area for premium running back in the draft. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of been that soft spot lately when the first
Yeah,
guy goes, like the Jacobs of the world and the maybe even Montgomery, if I recall correctly, second round. They're not
Montgomery.
world beaters here, but
You're talking
where the
about David Montgomery?
yeah.
I think he was a third rounder, dude.
Oh dang. Okay, even more so.
Maybe fourth.
So I'm just saying, like, it seems like that's where that value kind of kicks in, where it's like, okay, now I can give you a contract and not have to, yeah, more easier to take a chance on a running back and not overpay into first,
Cool.
beginning of second.
You ready to get into these wide receivers and tight ends
I am very much so.
and kickers? No,
And
we're not going to
kicker.
do any kickers.
Oh yeah, we might have to do a second show. The list I've got here for kickers, folks, the free agent kicker market.
There was one I wanted to mention, and you squashed the idea, so I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I really did want to mention one, like for
that's cool.
realty. So
Yeah,
we'll see if we
can
have time.
we can kick it around for sure.
Nice.
Ah.
I see what you did there. I see what you did. All right. Let's start off with wide receivers here. We folks that want to follow along at home, I am just going off of Pro Football Focus's free agency wide receiver rankings. It was just a guideline to go to use for the show, whatever. So our first receiver that we're going to talk about here is Chris Godwin. He got the franchise tag from the Bucks, of course. I don't understand how the franchise tag works because our next guy also got the franchise tag, but yet got $2 more million. I don't get it. I'm
Hmm.
not going to pretend to get it. Anyways, so Chris Godwin's getting almost 16 million, fully guaranteed for this 1 year deal. He finished as wide receiver number 33 this past season. A lot of that was due to missing 4 weeks. He missed weeks 2, 4, 5, and 8.
Mm-hmm.
A weird sprinkling of games that he missed. I know he had a broken finger at one point. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he had hamstring issues, but it might have been a concussion.
I
I
thought it
don't
was
remember.
concussion. That seems more
It could be
familiar to me,
concussion.
but
Okay.
I'm guessing. I know it was like you said, significant time missed.
So I kind of feel like this next season, if Godwin can stay healthy, he can maybe build a little bit more of a rapport with Brady. Obviously, he's running into problems with the same problems that he had last season. He had Mike Evans is still there.
Mm-hmm.
Gronk just got re-signed. Spoiler for our tight end talk. Um, OJ Howard's still there. I think Scotty Miller's still there. I Brady wants Antonio Brown to come back too. I think he's just a kid in a candy shop there in Tampa Bay. The Bucks are just giving Brady whatever he wants. I mean, they brought him their first Super Bowl in
Mm-hmm.
who knows how long. So
Well, and Leonard Fournette. I mean, come on, Super Bowl, here we come.
yeah, they're just getting the game back
I do
together.
have something to mention
Um,
about that later, but go ahead.
Yeah. So okay. So if you take the games that Godwin did play in, and you take his his points per game this past season were 13.21 points per game. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you slide in 13.21 points per game and add them and fill out those other 4 games that he missed, he would have ended up as wide receiver number 13. So if he would have played all 16 games, he would have at that clip he would have ended up as wide receiver number 13. That's not bad. That's not
Yeah,
bad at all,
yeah, for
considering
sure.
that he was fighting for playing time or catches and whatever and looks with all those other guys there. So
So
yeah,
still hope. I think is kind of what you're
what
getting
do you
at
think
there.
about Chris Godwin next year?
Um, that there's hope. You know, you can look at the franchise tag two different ways. We have to acknowledge that it could be the kiss of death, or the commitment that you're looking for. Not obviously it's not the commitment you're looking for. It needs to be longer of a commitment, but hopefully it's an endorsement that they believe in his talent and they want him around long term. Maybe we see
I
something
think
happen next year with Evans, etc.
I think
Obviously
what
Gronk.
they're doing here, and this is really smart by the Bucks,
Mm,
is that they gave him the franchise tag. They got Brady for another year for sure.
for sure.
And if Brady retires after next season, they're not committed to Chris Godwin long term and
They
they
can
can
tear
let
it
him
down.
go and they can start retooling their team. You know?
I don't hate it. Yeah.
I think out of any franchise, this was the smartest franchise tag that they did.
So you think he's as
It
good
makes
as gone in a
perfect sense.
year?
What's that?
You think he's as good as gone in a year?
I think they're gonna wait and see what Tom Brady wants to do after the next season.
Okay. Yeah. I
I think
mean,
that's exactly what they're doing. I don't think they're gonna
one of the
tag
things
Godwin
where that
again,
logic makes sense
but
is you're not in a position in quarterback picking range at any time in the near future because you're winning so many games,
yep,
as long as
yep.
he's there at quarterback and you've got this particular talent surrounding him on the defensive side of the ball also. Yeah,
Mhm.
like I said, you can look at it two ways as far as a franchise tag because we're also in the here in the next coming weeks we're in the dynasty mindset also. So from a dynasty perspective, it's probably not looking good, right? Like you're entering the
Probably not.
unknown. You're entering the unknown now. Redraft and short term dynasty, you're probably looking at a good year. I would hope. I think the franchise tag does say we want you here. Obviously, I know that acknowledging the obvious, but it means we believe in your talent. We want you involved in the offense again this year. And there's nothing to say that he can't kind of take the step forward in terms of share. And there's a lot of share to go around. There's a lot of they throw the ball a lot. They're a potent offense, and they get a lot
Mhm.
of opportunities because of a great defense. So he
Mhm.
can still be a top 12 fantasy wide receiver this coming year. But yeah,
Easily.
long term, you got to look at it with dynasty with some unknown.
Got $2 more million. Don't get it. Whatever.
It must be years
Robinson,
in the
he
league,
finished
I
as
think.
what's that?
Must be years in the league. Maybe some of these were 4-year deal, second round pick.
The only thing I can think of is that maybe Robinson got tagged before Chris Godwin, and I really, really don't. I
I
could have
don't know
looked
either.
it up. It sounds like a lot of gobbledygook that doesn't pertain to fantasy football. So Allen Robinson, he finished as wide receiver 12. Um, you would think that Andy Dalton is at least a little bit better than Tribbifoles. Um, Tribbifoles. Yeah, it's a work in progress. I'm trying to smash the two of them together
Oh, Nick
to
Foles,
make one
interesting.
really, that would be Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. Smash them together to make one really mediocre quarterback.
Mitch Foles,
Um,
Nick Trubisky. That's got a ring. Nick Trubisky.
yeah, I thought about that, and I also was going with
Nabisky.
Mitch Foles, and it sounded too much like Nick Foles. So
Nick
I don't
Biscuit. Nick the Biscuit. I'm okay. Well, let's stop. Cut.
know. Anyways, um, so maybe you maybe want to lower Allen Robinson's targets from 140 last season to to 140 over. You might want to lower Allen Robinson's targets from 151 this past season to maybe like 140 from Andy Dalton, maybe like 135.
Mm.
Um, I could see him hitting 1,200 yards again though with Andy Dalton,
Sure.
and maybe hit the 100 reception mark.
Be
And
nice.
you get him up to like maybe 9 touchdowns, and Allen Robinson's a top 10 wide receiver. I'm essentially what I'm trying to get at here is I don't know if I have a problem taking Allen Robinson as my number one wide receiver next year.
Are you also saying this is the nudge? Because we can only call it a nudge. Is this the nudge he needed to crack the top 12 and be a number one wide receiver? Because I mean, he's historically.
He was 12th last year.
Oh yeah.
He was literally wide receiver number
He seems
12
to
in
always be on
half
the
PPR.
cusp. He seems to always be on the
Yeah.
cusp and be a high end two more often than not. But
And I mean, like, oh, you have to kind of go see how the draft goes, but I think you might be able to get Allen Robinson. And if you say you went running back, I bet you could get Allen Robinson as your wide receiver one in the third round.
mm-hmm. I, I'm hesitant with the Chicago offense. I don't know if that's too much narrative, but I'm hesitant with the Chicago offense because,
If they bolster their offensive line, there's enough running game there. And
and I
I
do think
mean,
it's a slight upgrade. I do. So I guess logically,
it's gotta be better. It has to be. Nick
if he's,
Foles and Mitch Trubisky were
I mean, but
terrible.
the defense could regress before our eyes mid-season.
It's possible.
It
Yeah.
happens to teams. But I'd have to see that number. I'd have to see that ADP, that exact area where I'm going to get Robinson. Because yes, I'm getting him for a value. Let's put it that way. I'm not paying up. No way. I'm sure there's too many other players on the board that I could conceivably grab, like Chris Godwin. You know.
That's wow. I'd rather have Allen Robinson than Chris Godwin, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, you got a better quarterback throwing to Chris Godwin than you do Allen Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Let's move on to our third wide receiver here, and that is Kenny Galladay. He got his payday. He got a 4-year deal from the New York Giants worth $72 million, 40 of which are guaranteed. Why'd you do it, Kenny? What did we do to you, man? All we wanted for you to do is to go to the Colts and make me happy.
Well, I
That's what
mean,
we want. That's what the two of us wanted.
oh no, that was never gonna happen.
And okay, so that's just what I wanted, but whatever. But I mean, the Giants, dude. I know you were going for a money contract, but
I think he
what is
thinks he
his name
got a
again?
little bit of
Danny
both.
Dimes, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is your quarterback. It's not going to be good for you, man.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna miss having Matt Stafford as your quarterback.
I think it's a combination. I think he wanted the payday. We all have to acknowledge that. And quite frankly,
He
coming
was
from what,
very vocal about wanting that payday, and he
yeah,
wanted top money. And
and this is the person
he
who gave
got
it to
almost
him.
exactly what he wanted as far as a contract.
But I think there's a little more there because I think also yes, it had to qualify as a team that could and would give him top money, number one receiver money. But also look where he's coming from, Detroit. Like he didn't play with man, they might have been there for 1 year. No, I don't remember. Calvin Johnson, Megatron, Detroit is infamous for not paying their players. There's a couple of high profile, probably the best Lions of all time that have quit early. Barry Sanders, Calvin
No,
Johnson.
that wasn't because of contracts though.
It was because of
Calvin
lack of
Johnson was making a truckload of money in Detroit.
because Detroit never commits to players around them to give them contracts to win,
Fine.
or the players
That is a
themselves,
much better that is a much better statement than
or
what
in
you
this
made.
case, Galladay. I mean, they weren't going to pay him. That was obvious.
They weren't gonna pay him because they're trying to rebuild.
Yeah, and everybody wants out of Detroit. That's kind of what I'm getting at. It's just it's bad situation. They're bad with money. They don't like to pay their players they probably should pay. Stafford's gone. They let him walk right out the door. So,
Right. They were paying Stafford though too. So
oh,
it's
they were for sure. Yeah, they will pay some players. I'm not saying
I
they
get
don't
what
pay anybody.
I get what you're saying, but like how you're phrasing it is just completely off.
They have
Like
run the franchise into
they're
the
paying
ground.
players, but they're not paying the proper they're not managing their personnel properly
Exactly.
so that the players that they are paying don't want to stay there.
Yes, because they're never competitive,
I think that's what you meant.
underappreciated, so on and so forth. Exactly. So,
Yes.
you can't blame the guy for looking for payday. Not that you were blaming him. But I think there's something there in the cupboard as far as talent in New York. But, I mean, it's all going to come down to Daniel Jones. Yes, the offensive line is questionable also, but, he might have seen it like, okay, if Daniel Jones isn't the guy, I mean, I might get another couple years out of Saquon and Ingram and things like that, and maybe we're picking in the top four because, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's very conceivable they're picking in the top four in the next year or two. Or he believes, maybe there is something there with Jones. And if there's ever a time for Jones to prove it, it's going to be this year. And this is going to be a theme with a couple guys on this list. Is the
I
said
think that
quarterback is
this is
is
Daniel Jones's last year, and I think
exactly.
it's their last year with this offensive line too that they've invested draft capital
Mm-hmm.
and money into that for
Mm-hmm.
some reason is not gelling whatsoever. They didn't at least last year. I just one more thing I wanted to mention here
Mm-hmm.
is that Kenny Galladay. I thought he missed the entire season, but apparently he played in 4 games. In those 4 games, he was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
He
he had
averaged
one
almost 14
huge
points
game.
per game.
Okay.
And you take those 4 games and you extrapolate over, a 16 game season, he would have ended up at wide receiver 8. So the guy's good. We know he's good. I'm just putting numbers into people's
Well, and don't
heads.
forget, it's easy to forget what have you done for me lately because you don't see him in front of your eyes for what seemed like most of the season. Yeah, absolutely good to mention that.
And I think it's also key too that everyone talks about Kenny Galladay being a good receiver. Well, if you're just coming to either the show or to fantasy football, and maybe even last season when your first season, you're just like, who's this Kenny Galladay joker that he only played in 4 games? He was good. He's good, folks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
And I think just a couple last things I wanted to mention before moving on is that
yeah,
I like the complement of weapons. Ingram at tight end, Shepard and slot I think is underrated, and of course Slayton on the outside helping to take the top off a bit. And Galladay is going to be go up and get him with the best. I get the impression he's gotten a little bit better at route running and separation, which is not his calling card. Size and winning the contested ball is his calling card.
no,
But
route running is his calling card.
oh, is it?
You're talking about speed. Oh yeah. Remember how when he was a rookie and I forget what the head coach at the time's name was, but
Mm-hmm.
he's like Kenny Galladay runs such smooth routes.
Oh well.
That was from the coach, dude.
Shout out to reception perception Matt Harmon. I mean, he had pointed out that early in his career he was a contested ball, uh, you know, uh,
Yeah,
I don't want to say renaissance,
he's six foot
expert at
four.
it.
He's a big guy.
But he has improved his route running, and he's gotten better there. Is
Yeah.
what he said. And then the last thing was like in fantasy terms, like you kind of I think you hit a nice spot where you said eighth, with the analysis you did there. I think that's kind of what we may be looking at. I think maybe at the end of the day, volume will rule the day with Galladay, despite what
Do
we
you
may think
think?
about Daniel Jones.
Yeah. Do you think that he's gonna get overdrafted because of that? Do you think like what I said was so like, oh no, on a 16 game basis, he would have been wide receiver 8, and people are going to take him as their wide receiver 1, and he's going to
It could be,
underperform there
could be.
in a
I would.
sense that. And then I'm not saying he's going to be a bust, but he's going to maybe not perform up to people's expectations.
Expectations. I would think.
Like
I would think it'd be like.
he's not going to return the wide receiver 1 value is what I'm getting at, I guess.
I have
Maybe.
concern that for sure, but I would be more concerned. It would be for the reasons that I named, where I start falling in love with Saquon. and the tight end, and Ingram the tight end, and the weapons there. We're like, oh, Saquon brings the level up. Suddenly Daniel Jones looks better, and you kind of fall in love with that narrative and overdraft him, and then no, he doesn't return wide receiver one. He returns like
I think if he's getting drafted as a wide
I
receiver
am too.
one, like he's going to be wide receiver number 9 off the board.
Mm,
Like just throwing a number out there, like hypothetically, I'm going to pass because I Daniel Jones scares the bejesus out of me.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I do like the
Okay, cool.
complement of weapons, but at the end of the day, on the clock, I think I'm on your side that I have to go with a different quarterback throwing my guy the ball, my number one. Yeah,
Hmm. How about
if
our
I
next
can.
guy, Will Fuller? He is moving on from the Texans and the dumpster fire that continues to burn in Houston. He signed a 1-year deal, fully guaranteed for $10.63 million with them. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris's Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, that's shout out for you,
Yeah.
Tim.
eh, Oh yeah, Tim's a big Dolphins fan. I forgot.
And
Um,
and Chris, my brother-in-law.
right. So my oh, I don't have a lot to say here other than Will Fuller has served 5 out of his 6 game suspension last season. He did miss week 2, I believe. Yep, week 2 of last year as well.
Mm,
And the problem with Will Fuller has always been just staying on the field.
yep.
It's it, and like up until last season, it was kind of a roller coaster of production as well because he would always have those enormous explosion games, and then he would the valley would happen, and he would get you next to nothing.
And
Last year,
then
though,
mhm,
he was at the time that he got suspended, he was like the wide receiver number 9, and he was averaging 16.38 points per game. He was on
yeah,
pace for to be like wide receiver 4, I
and he
believe, on
was
this season.
and he was arguably the most consistent wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, he was great, man. He was. I drafted him. I drafted him in like a mid round last year, and
Mm,
he was like my wide receiver 1/2,
yep.
outside of my boy DK Metcalf, which we're not talking about here. But DK Metcalf, you're great. I love you. Um,
But it was a great combo for sure.
yeah, and it was
It
such
wasn't a
great
number
value.
3, but it was a very so a low end one
Yeah.
and or two low
And
end
then he
ones,
got
I guess.
suspended, and so there's gonna be that narrative always with Will Fuller is can he stay
Mhm.
healthy, whatever. I say you're probably gonna get him at a discount because he's missing week 1 next year,
Yep.
and there's always that injury risk with him. But if you can, I don't know, I feel like he's really like upped his game. He's just not like I run fast really straight, like he's got more to his game now that he's a little bit older and
Hmm.
he can run routes a little bit better. And I think he proved that last year with the Texans and Deshaun Watson. Now, I know you love Tua, but I don't think Tua is anywhere close to the talent that Deshaun Watson is. Anyways, yeah, I think Will Fuller could be a really good value. If you're getting him in mid later rounds, man, I think you draft him as maybe your wide receiver 2 or 3, probably more like a 3, and and if he starts doing well, you just ride the wave until he gets injured or suspended again or whatever.
So it's fair to say your decision, as it does with probably every single player, but in particularly in this situation, hinges on his value, where he's at, the fourth, fifth round. As you said, your second or
Oh
third.
boy, he's got to go. He's got to be going later
Yeah,
than 4th, 5th
I
round.
kind of echo some of the same stuff here. I mean, he finished 28th, despite how many games he missed. He's only had 50
Yep,
catches once in his career, which was last year with 53. So these are some of the negatives against him. A career high 8 touchdowns
true.
last year. I mean, that's not anything like
Hmm.
that
That
could
wa- and that was
regress.
only and that was only with 10 games
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
10 games that he
But
played in.
yeah, listen, it's a risk, no doubt. But as we both are echoing here, like it's going to be, it could very well be worth the risk. We think the talent's there, career and his career evolution. I mean, he's runs all the routes now, and I think
Yeah.
Tua, the knock against this move is that Tua isn't necessarily the skill set that fits a guy like Fuller, but I think the skill set of Fuller isn't exactly what we envisioned it for the first 2 or 3 years of his career. I think it's
Yeah.
expanded.
I mean, Tua's on my list of players to do game film on
Yeah, the impression I
because
get
I
is he
want to
likes
see.
to get the ball out. He can obviously buy some time with his
I
wheels.
want to I want to see his like arm strength too, like
Sure,
because if
sure.
you're gonna have Will Fuller there, and if they are going to circle back around to the very top of the show, if
Mhm.
they are going to draft a receiver, which usually if you're taking one of the top receivers in the draft, they're going to have some significant speed to them. If Tua can really get that ball downfield, like maybe Miami wants him to,
Yeah, yeah, I
So
agree. Meaning I agree. I'd like to get a better feel for what Tua is like throwing the ball down the field, but the
yeah,
impression I get right now is that it's not necessarily his forte. But speed is speed. So
I feel like he did at Alabama though. Like
yeah,
I don't feel like Alabama is a dink and dunk team.
I don't feel like I've seen him struggle to get the ball deep. I'll put it that way. In the little time that I've seen of him with Alabama
Yeah.
in particular. But yeah, it
Okay.
all comes down to that. It comes down to Tua. Like I said, it's kind of the theme of the show. If you believe in his talent to get the ball out to these weapons, Fuller could be a really great value, man. I'm excited about this team, as you know.
Yeah, you're a Dolphins fan. We know. It's
I'm, I'm,
we have well documented
yeah.
this in YouTube and
Now,
podcast format. For
now
your
I will
birthday,
admit,
spoiler alert, I'm getting you a Dolphins jersey. It's going to be Miles Gaskin, of
mhm,
course, because he's your boy.
I will I will
Um,
admit this move it this up move near the top of the draft. If I'm wrong about the defense and it is a receiver. Furthermore, I also, even though I love Gaskin, believe they probably do take a running back at some point in probably second or third round. So I could be seeing a different complement of almost an entirely different complement of weapons. But Tua Gaskins could still have a role. I do love the tight end Gasecki. So yeah, onward and
I
upward,
mean,
guys.
they got Preston Williams coming back from injury.
Yeah,
He
nothing
got
to sneeze
injured in
at.
like week 1 or 2 last year.
Hmm.
You still have Devontae Parker, which I think they gave like, a contract to last off season. Let me look that up real quick.
Feels like it was a
I
2 year
just
deal. Nothing too big. I mean,
uh,
significant, but not like a number one
no, but it
receiver
was
deal.
enough. It was starter level money. It wasn't just a little like, oh, here's some money. While I look
Hmm.
this up, let's move on to our next wide receiver. It is Juju Smith-Schuster. He is staying with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He finished as wide receiver number 20 last year. Assuming Juju and Big Ben both stay really healthy, I don't really know where
It's got to
he
be.
goes other than where he finishes next season, other than wide receiver 20. Like he's probably
Yeah,
in the best spot.
because you got the same. You got to
Um,
figure Claypool might take a step forward. I think the best receiver there is Deontay. Is it Johnson? Deontay
Hot damn.
Johnson. But Juju, that's done to me. Juju won't have fantasy relevance because PPR, etc. Now I was worried about the Pittsburgh offense last year, and I don't think I'm the only one to say that. I haven't heard anything about James Conner. So is a rookie going to be the guy, or is it Snell? I don't know.
It's gonna be a rookie.
And really, I hate to keep coming back to it, but for different reasons, it comes down to whether you believe the quarterback can get these guys the ball and get fantasy production out of them. And quite frankly, Ben didn't show a whole lot of that at the end of last year. Now, I think it had to do with
But
health. I think it had to do with maybe abbreviated off season from the
well, I mean, if
pandemic.
he's gonna be a noodle arm too, Juju's
That's what
great
I'm
for
getting.
that.
That's well, yeah. I see what you mean. A dink and dunk, a PPR offense.
Yeah.
Juju's fine in a PPR. Juju's fine if you can get a value, but I'm leaning Deontay in terms of the bet. I'm going to go with the talent at the receiver
You
position.
want to hear what Devontae Parker's contract was that he signed
I
last
do.
off season?
I do.
4 years, $30.5 million.
So just like 7 or 8 mil a year. My math.
About eight and a quarter a year,
Okay.
or eight and
Well,
a half. Sorry.
he really did kind of turn his attitude in his career around a year or so ago. A couple years ago, I think I'll call it.
Well, that was because of Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Well, no, but also like he started showing up for
Yeah,
practice and stuff. It's so funny.
that
I'm
was
like,
because of
hey,
Ryan
he finally started
Fitzpatrick.
showing, but it was bad. Like he was not a
A
fun
real
guy to have in the
knucklehead.
locker room.
Yes,
Yeah,
we get
so
it.
I think he's completely turned that aspect of his career around, and I think it's shown on the field. I'm not saying he's necessarily worth that top 8 or whatever pick he was,
Well, I just feel like that kind of
but
money right there, though, is you do that. You got Will Fuller. You got if they do draft a wide receiver with that number 6 pick,
I still don't think that's a
boy,
done deal.
I don't think so either. I'm just going. I'm
So
just
what
reporting
you read, what
what
you
I
heard.
read.
I agree. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I just
I am reporting the whispering in the bushes.
Mhm.
You got anything else to say about Juju here?
That's
I
nope.
kind of don't.
I'm good.
Okay. Our next guy up is, for some reason, is number 27 on PFF's free agency list. I don't get this one, but it's Corey Davis. Was the wide receiver for the Titans. He moves on to the New York Jets. The New York Jets? Yeah,
Oh,
New York
excuse me.
Jets. It's a 3-year deal for $37.5 million, 27 of it guaranteed. This guy got a payday. Wow. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't make $27 million a
Mm-hmm.
year, or
Yeah.
I don't make $1 million a year, but that's a lot of money for a guy that's just truly not a wide receiver one.
I think.
Um,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that, and maybe I'm going to say exactly what you're going to say, but I think if the Jets really think that Denzel Mims, who they drafted last year, is going to be their quote unquote alpha dog, then Corey Davis is, as he showed in Tennessee opposite of AJ Brown,
Mm-hmm.
that he is a really great beta,
Mm-hmm.
to like a nice beta wide receiver to complement your number one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really have much else to say. Like, he missed a few games last year. He goosed you a couple of times as far as fantasy football. He just wasn't really that great fantasy wise. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think something that's followed him around him in his career is his draft spot. If I recall, it might have been top 5, number 2, 3, 4. It was pretty high. It was the number
It was
one.
4, 5, or 6. I can't remember
Okay,
which.
first receiver off the board. That's kind of followed to kind of bring his value
Yeah, he was getting
down.
he was getting comps like Calvin Johnson and
Yep,
everything,
yep. But it was
and
smaller school. But I mean,
Central
I still
Michigan.
like the signing. There's something to be said for hedging your bets, especially when you're bringing in, most likely bringing in, a rookie quarterback. Now the Jets could still win from keeping Darnold in camp and having these guys compete. I don't know exactly who's at the 2 or 3 spot off the top of my head. It's either the Fields kid from OSU or
The BYU guy
thank you,
who
BYU
just had
guy.
his pro day, and I watched
Yeah,
some of that, and I was like, "Ooh,
yeah. So
someone got his draft stock to
you know,
skyrocket."
right. Also, Marvin Jones in Jacksonville, which we'll get to. Like, just to know that I have a
What is that?
vet there that I
What
can
is that
funnel
kid's
targets
name?
to. Like, if there's anything you can say about Jones and Corey Davis, like, you can funnel targets to him and there'll be some production. It's better than not having anybody. I don't know about Mims being the number one. I agree, Corey Davis isn't a quote number one. But I mean, he had a career high 15.1 yards per reception last year. He was also mired in
Oh,
bad quarterback play in Tennessee before Tannehill got there. He got 112 targets
true.
in 2018. Catch percent was very low, 58%. He turned that around this year in 2020 and got 70.3%. It's a great
Oh,
improvement.
nice.
Probably a direct
Well,
result
in
of the QB
2018,
play.
could some of that low catch rate also have been that he spent half the season with Marcus Mariota throwing him the ball?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah. You get some consistency at the position,
Just
and
an
with
idea.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's merited. Yeah. Now I'm not saying he is performing at his draft capital. I'm just saying this could be a good move for the Jets because they need a guy. I honestly don't hate this move, given another guy we'll talk about, Keelan Cole. I think the fact that neither is a true alpha number one doesn't necessarily bother me. I think the combination of skill sets is intriguing. I think Keelan Cole in the
Yeah.
slot, assuming Crowder's gone. Um, yeah,
No, they're gonna keep Crowder.
you think so?
He's their. Oh yeah.
They gave Cole a decent chunk of change. I don't know. I
No, they
think he
didn't.
plays that role better than Crowder does at this point in his career.
What?
Yeah, I think Cole's given a chance.
You must be high as a kite, dude. That
Yeah.
that is ridiculous. You're saying Keelan Cole is better than Jamison Crowder?
I think given the opportunity to play the same role, the slot receiver, yeah, I think he would have a
That's
better
not
year in
Keelan Cole's.
2021.
That's not Keelan Cole's bag, though.
Speed is speed. You give him the ball in space, I think he can do stuff with it. I think Jacksonville used him in interesting ways last year.
Okay, I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you, but that's okay. I mean, we don't have to be 100% in compete to agreement.
Yes, we did. No, I'm
Um.
just kidding.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry.
that's all I got on Davis though.
All right. Well, in that case, let's move on to our next wide receiver, who is John Brown. He is leaving Buffalo, which I thought was kind of an odd move at first, but it kind of makes sense too. I think it's a straight money move for the Bills, but he signed a 1-year deal with the Raiders for $3.5 million, which 3.24 of that or I'm sorry, I said 3.5. I meant 3.75 million, and 3.24 of that is guaranteed. Why not just give him the other $500,000? It's only $500,000. I say that like I make $500,000 a year, which I so don't.
Yep, he doesn't.
Uh, John Brown, I think the best thing that he is just a late round flyer. He needs to stay healthy. That's been the knock on him his entire NFL career
Mm-hmm.
is staying healthy.
Mm-hmm.
He just, whether it's hamstring, or I believe he had the sickle cell trait when he was in Arizona, concussions. I mean, it's never anything major.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. It's all these like little minor things that are just, I don't know. And I find this signing really interesting by the Raiders, because they drafted Henry Ruggs last year in the draft, and then they didn't use him a whole lot. Granted, he missed some time due to injury, but then they brought in Nelson Aguilar, who was their best guy, and it seems like they're building a lot of speed for Derek Carr, who's the Duke of Dink and Dunk.
Well, there's a bit of
I was really proud
misconception
of that
there.
name, by the way.
The Duke of Dink and Dunk.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of
Um,
misconception there, particularly last year, because Aguilar has been a possession guy his whole career until last year. He gets off
yeah.
18.7 yards per catch. Carr was sneaky, uh, good, I guess you could say, through
Oh,
the
no,
air.
no, I'm not trying to besmirch Derek Carr. I just, like, he doesn't seem to
But
push the ball
Waller
down
does.
field.
Waller does get a lot of close to the line of scrimmage targets and right after the
Mhm,
catch. Like there
mhm.
is still a big part of their game that is West Coasty and is like you said, dink and dunk. But they did quite a bit through the
I
air
just thought
last
of
year.
something. Go ahead.
They did do quite a bit through the air last year, and particularly Aguilar. Now Aguilar's out. What I don't get this move is it's just another, like real football terms, it's another John Gruden head scratcher, or should I say Mike Mayock head scratcher. It just
Thank you.
why
That's the GM's name.
you have
Yes.
you have Henry Ruggs in house. That's why you drafted him. He's your speed guy. I just don't get it. And in terms of fantasy, I don't know where to go with this because Waller is going to get his. I think it is important to remember, however, when we do find the fantasy pieces to this puzzle besides Waller through the air, is that Carr has been a pretty decent fantasy quarterback, and he's been able to support some pretty decent fantasy weapons. Uh,
It's true.
is it Aguilar? I'm sorry. Is it uh, sorry, where were we? I just John Brown. Is it John Brown? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think it's because you even the slot guy. Who's the slot guy they like? Is he still there?
Hunter Renfro.
Thank you. I think they still like him. So
Cold start for this guy.
yeah, I'm a little torn there. I guess I'll defer to Ruggs and think this John Brown signing is just a veteran depth.
So yeah, but also I just thought of something, is that I mean, they completely dismantled their offensive line. I think they were just extremely unhappy with the production they got last year. They're trying to rebuild it, and I think their hope is once they can get their offensive
They can go
line
downfield more.
and get Derek Carr the protection he needs, and that's why he is the Duke of Dink and Dunk, is because he's just doesn't have a lot of
Necessity.
time to throw the ball. You
Necessity.
know?
Yeah, and he's doing the right thing by doing it. To be fair,
Well,
adjusting his
yeah. I
game to
mean,
get the ball out.
I, I mean, I think
He's
there was.
he's a little underrated. I know I'm not a fan. I don't want to make it sound like a Carr fan. It's just in fantasy terms,
He's a
he's
Carr
not.
fan, folks.
He's no, I'm not. He's not so bad. Like I don't know. We'll see this year. Maybe they'll get him some help.
Okay.
Maybe this is the help.
Let's move on to our next guy. It is T.Y. Hilton. He signs a 1-year, $10 million deal, which 8 of which is guaranteed with the Colts. He's back, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I'm glad he returned. I wanted him to kind of bring some stability to the Colts wide receiving core.
Absolutely.
I just like, I know Paris Campbell's supposed to be the bee's knees, but where have you been, Paris Campbell? Oh yeah, that's right, not playing football.
Did he
You
not?
know,
Did
like,
he not leave and come back? I thought he went elsewhere.
who?
Paris Campbell.
No,
Is he
he got drafted by the Colts.
still under his rookie contract? First 4
Oh yeah,
years. Okay.
yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
He wasn't a first round pick, but still, it's just,
I think
he
I'm
was
getting
supposed to be
him
really
confused
good
with
coming out
another
of Ohio
player.
State, and he has barely even seen the field. Um, I don't know what I don't really know what Carson Wentz is going to bring to the table with T.Y. Hilton, but I think he's still got a little left in the tank. I feel like he's. I've certainly have not watched any T.Y. Hilton game film from last year, but everyone's from what I've read and heard that he looks better on tape than he does
Impression
if
I
you
get
just
is
look
that
at the if you
he
just look at
still
the
has the
stat line.
speed. That's the impression I get.
Yeah,
He still
still
has
had
the
the
speed.
speed, still has the route running ability. He even though he is not that like he's not a Calvin Johnson giant or anything like that. I think he's like 6 foot, but he still got some leaps to him.
He's right at
So
that 6 foot, 200, 195 kind of area, if I recall.
yeah, um,
Mm-hmm.
I know that he gets some poor man's Antonio Brown, uh, kind of coverage
I have another comp, somebody
comparison. Sorry,
that I think they played together. Deshaun Watson,
who?
T.Y. Hilton and Deshaun Watson comparison. Speed.
Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, didn't Wentz play with Deshaun Watson for a year or so before he started going kind of freelance for the last 3 or 4 years? I'm
Isn't
comparing.
Deshaun Watson still the quarterback of the Houston
Deshaun
Texans?
Jackson. I'm sorry, Deshaun Jackson. Wrong Deshaun. Uh, Wrong last name. That is Deshaun
Well,
Jackson.
Carson Wentz and Deshaun Jackson played together last year.
Oh yeah, he came back. He came back. But the first time around, did they?
Don't think so.
Don't think so. It's close.
No.
Anyway, they played together last year. I don't know. I just thought maybe the similar archetypes. Maybe that's what they're thinking. Downfield
Yeah,
threat.
but T.Y. Hilton goes over the middle of the field. Deshaun Jackson has been very
Yeah.
vocal about not doing so. So,
Well, T.Y. might
um,
do less. I think the other options would be like I would think now at this point in their career they would probably like Pittman in that role more. But Hilton still got speed, is what I've been told.
yeah. Let's move on to Curtis Samuel. I love this signing. He gets a 3-year, $34.5 million contract, 23 of which is
Significant.
guaranteed. That's a nice payday for him, man.
Yeah, man. They're going to use him.
I gotta say, at first, I didn't much care for this until Ryan Fitzpatrick signed, and
Yeah.
now I'm all on board. The best thing. Okay, so I just did some game film on Robert Woods. Quick little plug. Go ahead and check that out. It should be right before this in the YouTube channel history, whatever. However YouTube works. I think it runs on hamster wheel. Hamsters running on wheels is how it
Mm-hmm.
works.
You should tell the hamster to put a floating card in the screen where they can click on it and it'll take them right to the video.
Nice. Uh, the best thing I got about Curtis Samuel is he is probably a poor man's Robert Woods. I mean, in a sense that he does it all. He can run the ball. He can catch
Yeah.
the ball. He just doesn't do any of it at an elite level.
Mm-hmm. I also
He's
think
that
he can be a downfield threat and use his speed intermediately.
master of none, good at everything sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Ron Rivera likes him, so God, that's a lot of money.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it feels it's almost kind of feels like Ron Rivera is trying to put together the Carolina Panthers in the capital.
Yeah, but he's got Terry McLaurin. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
DJ
Terry
Moore.
McLaurin.
I love DJ Moore, but give me McLaurin.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. You got anything else on Curtis Samuel?
Just kind of just echo what I just said. I think it's going to be a great compliment to McLaurin and the passing game.
Yeah,
Curtis Samuel is.
you realize it's McLaurin, right?
What did I say? McLaren, like the
Yeah,
car. McLaurin.
yeah,
McLaurin.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah. There you go.
That guy. Scary
Your, your
Terry.
your wife's family is really upset with you about that pronunciation there.
Yeah, right. Well, not the second one. The second one was dead on. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go.
uh, so yeah, just I'm super excited about this offense this year. I think Samuels
Yeah, me too.
is another great cog as a number two. He got good money. I think that shows that they're going to use him. I just made the head coach connection.
Mhm.
Fitzpatrick is going to get the ball out, get it down the field. He's gonna make this thing run, and I'm really excited about. Despite being a Dallas fan, I'm excited about this Washington team. I'm the biggest Washington football team and Miami fan there is around these parts. I swear, being in Illinois of all things. Samuel, I just think is going to compliment. I think McLaren is going to flirt
McLaurin.
with wide receiver one, if not top six, top five territory. And I think Samuel can come in and be your two or three. in
It's
fantasy.
yeah, it's I'm curious to see where he's actually going to fall into my personal rankings because I
Hmm.
really like Curtis Samuel. I think it's going to be a bit of a value for him, and you could maybe draft him as your wide receiver 3, but he could easily end up as your 2. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
just a real
Teams are going to have to pay attention to McLaren.
yeah.
I did it again. I did it right.
McLaren,
It's
he
like a
did it,
thing
folks.
now.
Okay,
I'm gonna have to like
I'm gonna
practice off air.
I'm gonna run through the next set of wide receivers here, and I'm gonna
Wait,
give
wait,
out their
wait, wait, wait,
contracts and
wait,
their
wait, wait.
destinations.
Why
What?
is this to finish things up? Are you done? The one guy I wanted to mention was Marvin Jones. I didn't want you to.
I'm getting in there. I'm
Okay,
going to
cool.
run through these real quick, and you stop me
Oh, my bad.
when you want to talk about someone. Okay, starting with Marvin Jones.
Stop.
He got a 2-year, $12.5 million contract, 9 of which is guaranteed. He's signed with the Jags. Presumably, Trevor Lawrence is going to be throwing him the ball. What do you got on him?
Another solid year for Jones. 9 touchdowns, 3 out of the last 5 years. 9 or more in
Yeah.
half of his 8 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He's an under the radar guy. Nobody believes he's a true one, but with a rookie coming in, them having plenty of targets to spread around, depending on what you think about Chark, this could be a security blanket for a young quarterback. He has to throw a lot. I have a little bit of trouble predicting what Urban Meyer's offense is going to look like in the NFL. But again, volume I think is going to win here, and he's still a talented dude who's going to get the job done. We could see a 1A 1B with him and Chark. I don't know, but I think you're going to get a value because he is always an afterthought. Always. Jones is Marvin Jones.
Okay. Um, I don't have much else to add other than he's usually just like you said, usually a late round value.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that he's a nice like spot start because of injury or like a 1 week start or like a nice bye week plug in sort of
Mm-hmm.
guy.
He could
Not much else than that.
he could vault from wide receiver 3 territory to into solid wide receiver 2 territory, depending on the rookie quarterback. Could. Ceiling.
Could. That word could is doing a lot of lifting in that sentence there. Next up, Nelson Aguilar, 2 years, $22 million, 16 of which is guaranteed for the Patriots. Sammy Watkins, a 1-year deal in Baltimore for $5 million.
Real
Emmanuel
quick on
Sanders
Aguilar.
goes.
Go ahead.
Whoop, okay,
I
go
was just
ahead.
going to say you could get 2 birds, 1 stone. Kendrick Bourne also went to New England. Basically, my overall is I don't want any piece of this offense until
And
Cam Newton shows me something else.
yep, I was just going to say, I'm going to yawn and not care until Cam Newton does something that I
Yeah,
really
hard
care
pass.
about.
Hard pass for now.
Yep. Where was I? Emmanuel Sanders. He
Mm-hmm.
gets a 1-year deal from Buffalo for $6 million, 5.9 of which is guaranteed. Why not the other 0.1? Like they just like, no, we're not going to give you a fully guaranteed contract, but we'll give you 5.9. Like what's
It's $100,000. I mean, it's significant, right?
I know it's just funny. Um,
Round up.
Yeah, just round it up, man. Keelan Cole, guy you talked about earlier that we completely disagreed on, 1 year, $5.5 million contract. Tyrell Williams signs with Detroit for a 1 year, $4 million deal. I think that's more of a prove it deal than anything else because he's been injured for like the last season and a half or something like that. But up until that point, before
He played well.
he missed a little bit of time in 2018. He's been super healthy and reliable. He's not the fastest guy. He's kind of like I feel like Tyrell Williams is kind of like boy, I just had a player in my mind and I completely lost it.
A poor man's Kenny
Like a
Galladay.
poor man. Thank you. I was just gonna say it. I was just gonna say
Size
it.
speed combination.
But he's not. Kenny Galladay is not the fastest guy in the world, and neither is Tyrell Williams.
But
But
when
they're
you
big.
couple it with a 6'4", 6'3" frame,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a common metric. I don't literally refer to the metric, but it's a common metric folks use especially in draft circles.
For sure.
Size speed specimen.
We got Rashard Higgins returning to Cleveland on a 1 year, $2.38 million deal. Our
Great.
boy Riggins there.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Green goes to
been a community
the
favorite for a long
Cardinals
time.
for a 1 year, $6 million deal. That's also more of a prove it deal that he's still got some left in the tank at. I think he's going to be 33 this year. Either can't remember if it's before the season starts or during the middle of the season. I don't remember which, but 33.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those guys, that you want to kind of touch on anything at all?
Did I miss it?
That's
Did you do?
all. Those were all the guys that I deemed worth even bringing up.
No, I think you hit it. Yeah, I'm good with.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's move on to some tight ends. There's not a lot to talk about
Yeah,
here
no.
with tight ends. It's
I
there's
will
like
feign
three guys.
excitement. I will
There's like
feign
three guys
excitement.
to really talk about, and that's kind of about it. So let's get started with the top here. We're gonna kind of do these two kind of right alongside each other. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. Let's go with Hunter Henry to start. 3-year, 37.5 million contract, 25 of which is guaranteed. And to follow that up, it's also Jonnu Smith signing with the Patriots for 4 years, 50 million, 31.25 guaranteed.
It's like
If
double
you average it
digits.
out, it's the same contract, only one's a year more, but more or less.
Approximately 10 mil per year, or just
Something
south
like
of
that.
that. 9 point
More
something.
than 10.
Oh, okay. My bad.
More than 10 a year.
Math is fun.
Math is fun. Um
Speaking of
it's like
math,
it's
no,
like 12. It's like 12 a year. It's a little over 12 a year.
yeah,
That's a lot of money. This is a lot of money for a guy. This would be Jonnu Smith, whose best season was last year, and he had 41 catches, 448 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
yeah. I mean,
That's not
it's
a great stat line, folks. That's not a great stat line.
no.
2019 was Hunter Henry's best year at 55 catches, 652 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now, last year being 2020, of course, was very close to that. He had like 51 receptions and like 600 and 40 yards or something like that. But it's just like these aren't like world breakers,
And
They're,
do we expect those numbers to go up when they're in the
I
same
don't
offense together, even on the same field
know.
at the same time? I don't see how. If you think that you're chasing the the
Who signed
Patriots.
first? I think it was Hunter Henry signed first.
Uh-huh.
And by first I mean like literally within the same day or within the same
Mm-hmm.
24-hour time span.
Mm-hmm.
They both signed with the Patriots. But at first I was like, oh, Hunter Henry going to the Patriots. That's cool. Like they've shown in the past that the Bill Belichick likes to scheme in tight ends into his offense. That's cool. I get down with that.
Yeah, we
Cam
can we
Newton,
could
if he
we
is
could
the
connect those
starter,
dots for sure. Yeah.
and like when Cam Newton was in Carolina and he had Greg Olson, well, I mean he made Greg Olson a Pro Bowler multiple times over,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He
So
doesn't
I
have a
mean,
problem throwing a
and not
tight
to
end.
take away from the talent of Greg Olson, he's probably a Hall of Fame tight end.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and Mike Martz, you ruined his career in Chicago. That's
At least
not
that
to
was the
get into that.
beginning, wasn't it? That was the beginning of his career. Yeah. So at least
Yeah.
he went on to like you said, he's going to make the Hall of Fame probably, and
Anyways,
deserves to.
so and then Jonnu Smith signed with the Patriots, and I was like,
I thought I
okay.
saw Jonnu first, but it's neither here nor there.
Regardless,
Yeah.
like I said, it was within 24 hours they both signed
Yep.
with the Patriots. So
Yep.
it's just like this is bizarre. Like
Well, I
I
mean,
get that there's
mhm.
like the 12 personnel sets and everything, and that's a real thing in the league right now. I don't know, man. For fantasy, like I think it's kind of stay away from both of them.
I think from a real football perspective, I'm intrigued, but I can't help but come back to the short analysis we gave on Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne. I want no piece of this offense until Cam shows me something. We can talk all we want about the glory days of this. I feel weird putting it in those terms, but I'm sorry, Henderson, no, Hernandez and Gronk of gosh, what year was that, dude? Like 07, 6?
Nah, it wasn't that long ago. It
Okay.
was, we'll say
2010.
2012.
Okay. So, and if you're chasing that, you're chasing waterfalls. I just don't think that's going to be,
Don't go chasing those folks.
a statistically historical season is what happened there, as far as the way they ran that offense. And it had the greatest quarterback of all time running said offense. Let us not forget that, of which Cam is not.
Jim
So,
Sorgi was a quarterback for the Patriots.
right. No, not Swords. So,
It was literally the first quarterback
I'm
that popped in my head for some reason.
right. I'm interested in how the offense will look in real NFL terms and how many games they may or may not win with a, I don't know, run centric attack, two tight ends blocking, yet also going out for red zone targets. I see kind of where they're going with it, but honestly, I don't know. I'd rather talk about Ferkser left in Tennessee with more targets to himself is probably a more viable option.
Well,
Uh,
let's skip ahead to that then. If you want to talk about Ferkser, I mean, we're kind of leapfrogging
mhm.
someone here real quick, but
No,
what I
that's cool.
mean, go for
I'm
it. If
I'm
you want to
just
talk about him, go for it.
I just think he flashed. I think the moves.
Not just this past season, but like even a couple years ago too. Like it's not, and it's only been flashes. He's just he constantly is re-signing 1 year contracts with the Titans.
Yeah, and it
They don't.
just sometimes teams value certain positions less or more. And
Well,
I think
and sometimes even though
I'm not
like
paying this
Firkser
money
might
for a
not
tight
be
end.
like an elite level athlete,
Hmm.
sometimes just a guy at tight end is all you need to have a week in, week out, like 10, 12 points a fantasy starter,
Maybe he does
you
everything
know?
right. Yeah, maybe he's
And
great in
honestly,
practice.
if I'm going super late with tight end, like I miss out on the big three or four, however you want to look at it this year, I'm gonna wait forever and I'm gonna pick up Anthony Firkser, maybe.
Hmm.
And if he's getting me 10 or 12 points a week for a guy that I drafted in like round 14, I'm
Yeah,
totally fine with that.
I mean we believe in the offense, right? We're on the same page there, right? We believe in the Tennessee offense.
Sure.
I mean, sure, Davis is gone, but AJ Brown is there. Ferkser might be
Yeah.
a fine option as long as Henry's
They need to retool their wide receiver core because they're not only did they lose Corey Davis, but they Adam Humphries is also
on the outs.
currently not with the team.
Okay.
So
Well, we got a draft, so but
there's a draft. Free agency's not over yet.
yeah, I
There's
believe in
still names out there
the offensive line first and foremost, and then of course Henry, the
for sure.
quarterback, AJ Brown. I think Ferkser. Let's put it this way: would you rather have either Jonnu or Henry or Ferkser or another guy on this list, Jared Cook in LA with the Chargers?
Can I say neither?
I give you four names, and you're not going to pick either. What you punted? You punted on tight end.
I'm probably going
It's not
Gerald
Allen.
Everett.
Not one of the names I listed. That's Seattle,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. But
Yep.
anyway, that's where I'm at.
That's what we call a segue, folks.
Yeah, I'm out on Jonnu and Hunter Henry.
Yeah, and probably Ferkser too, but we'll see. You know what? Okay. Out of all the names you gave me, I'm going to draft someone else and pick up Ferkser probably after week 1 in free agency.
You don't
How
think he'll
about
be
that? I'm apples.
drafted and okay, okay.
No.
All right.
Well, doing a draft with you, I know you're going to draft him, so maybe I will have to draft
Fourth
him.
round, baby. Ugh. Just kidding.
Man, I
Just
love
joking.
doing fantasy drafts with you.
Oh, all right, next.
Let's move on to our next tight end, which I said was Gerald Everett. He gets a 1 year, $6 million deal, fully guaranteed with the Seattle Seahawks. Um, okay. So I did a little investigating into the stats of Seattle Seahawks tight ends, and I was like, what if you just took all the Seahawks tight ends and you like Frankenstein them together, and
Into
you
a
get
bad
one
tight
super
end.
tight end? What?
Into a bad tight end. Well, Disley was okay for a
Uh,
second.
yeah. Well, I mean, well, if you combine all their efforts, you know what you get.
Like the
You
tight
get
end
73
15.
for last year. You get 73 receptions,
Oh,
73. Yep. 73 receptions, 689 yards, and 6 touchdowns. In 2019, 72 receptions, 611 yards, 7 touchdowns. You see the trend here. It's kind of more or less
that's not bad
70,
though.
like, 65 to 75 catches, 6 to 700
Is
yards,
that like tight end
five,
12?
six, seven, eight, not to 8 touchdowns. I mean, I guess
Sure.
that's starting tight end right
Pretty sure
there.
that's tight end like 12, 13, 11 territory.
The problem is that Seattle does kind of
Yeah.
Russell Wilson spreads the ball around, and it's
Hmm.
not usually to one tight end. Maybe Joe Everett could be that one tight end. They did, and the Seahawks did lose David Moore in free agency too. So there's not
And
that
Everett
guy
is more
kind of
your pass
popping in.
catcher than your blocker for
Yeah.
sure. But is
Um.
Disley still there?
Unsure.
Yeah, he hadn't stayed
I do not
healthy.
know. In other words. Let's move on to some honorable mentions here. Gronk, he signed a 1 year, $8 million deal with the Bucks again. It was pretty much Bucks or bust for Gronk, I think. Which is actually a 2 million less than last year. I think it was more, I'll take less money to stay with this team, or I'll go off and be a meathead. I don't really have much else to say other than Gronk was the number 8 tight end last year, but it was so hit or miss that you could really never kind of rely on it.
Yeah, you could maybe wait to draft him at the end of your draft, or like you said about Ferkser,
I
you
don't,
could
and
probably
you're not going to be
you
able to
could probably
draft him at
pick him
the
up
end.
on waivers in the first couple of weeks. Get a spot
No,
start with a touchdown here or there.
I don't think you're going to be able to wait on Gronk in drafts. I think someone's going to take him probably somewhere in around like
Then
9.
then then let him.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just
I
saying, I don't think you're going to be able to pick him up in round 13, 14.
feel like
Like
he's a
where
streamer. He's a spot start streamer at best.
I think after like the top 5, 6 tight ends, anyways, they're all streamers. So
That's kind
whatever.
of what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Let's move on to Jared Cook. He gets a 1 year, $6 million deal, 4.5 of which are guaranteed. He signed with the Chargers. I thought that was really good until I saw that Jared Cook was like 34. So, and not to besmirch someone who's 2 years younger than me, but it's pretty old for
Yeah,
football.
but have you seen all his career high in receptions was in 2018? 9 touchdowns in 2019. Like most of his good years have been like the last, I don't know, handful, several years. Granted,
That's cool. And we believe in Justin Herbert. Did not almost call him Joe Burrow there.
good.
Uh,
That's exactly
I
what I've got for my
We
notes,
believe
man.
in Herbie. So yeah, I mean he's
Cook might be a darling of mine in terms of trying to find value waiting on tight end. Absolutely. I
for
like this
sure.
signing. I mean, they don't need to keep him around for several years. Like you said, he's an older dude. But he's got
For sure.
size. You can't teach size,
Sure I can.
He can score.
Eat your Wheaties, folks. Next up, Kyle Rudolph, 2 year, $12 million deal, 4.5 of which is guaranteed. And he's of course going to the New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
And we already talked about Ferkser, who got a 1 year, $3 million deal with the Titans to stay with the Titans, and that's a fully guaranteed contract.
Nice.
You got anyone else you want to bring up? Anyone else?
Mm,
Anyone?
just I don't know. Rudolph, I suppose the first thing that comes to mind is competing with targets with Ingram. I don't know how much they can be on the field together. Ingram's more of your pass catcher. Did you know Kyle Rudolph had a career high catches, 83 catches in 2016? And
Yes.
speaking of age, career high 9 touchdowns in 2012. That seems like a long
Did not
time
know
ago.
that.
Yeah. So he used to be good.
Yeah.
That's
And
all
I'm
I
going to
got.
sneak in my kicker real quick, and that would be Younghoe Koo, who just re-signed with the Falcons for, I don't remember what the deal was. I didn't write it down, but he was really good for fantasy
That's a good
last year.
signing. That's
He
a
was a
great
really good
signing,
fantasy
actually.
kicker.
That's a great
So,
real life signing too. Honestly, sew
yeah,
that up. He might be
kickers
like
are
you said.
important.
Oh yeah, he might be arguably top 3, easy. It's a good kicker.
Yeah, he was a really solid fantasy kicker
Hmm.
and in real life too.
That's an
So,
important fantasy approach if you want to mention like at the end of your draft, if you want to flip it, like some people wait on to do defense last or kicker last. We first of all we endorse that. There's no reason to pick a defense or kicker.
I don't, but that's fine.
But what you can do, depending on which side of the turn you're on, you can get your pick of kicker. Like I
Yeah.
usually err on getting the best kicker than I do worrying about getting the best defense. I feel like I can predict the best kicker than I can
I
a
don't normally,
defense.
I don't always do this, but my strategy for the end of the draft is my third to last pick is kicker, my second to last pick is defense, and
Defense
then my last pick is a
flyer,
complete flyer.
complete flyer. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So like I said,
Like I said, I
depending
don't
how you do
always do
that.
that, but every once in a while, I'll feel it like at the end of the draft when I'm just like sitting there staring down at players, and I'm just like, why don't I just take the kicker that I want and then
Exactly.
roll with it? And I'm sorry, I said that out of order. My third to last pick is kicker. My second to last pick is my flyer pick on a player, and then my last pick is defense because at that point I could
Yeah.
really care
To
less.
be clear, folks, we're not saying be the first one to take a kicker. We're just saying if you can work it out in that situation where Josh is completely comfortable taking a
Exactly.
complete flyer with that last pick, take your kicker before your defense and your flyer, and you're
Yeah.
guaranteed to get, your Gostkowskis or your not anymore, but I don't know, name some other guys that have been really good. But yeah, no, that Atlanta kicker is for real.
Younghoe Koo, man, he's good.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like that's how you pronounce his name, but apparently that's how you pronounce his name.
That's how you pronounce his name on this show for this recording.
Well, it looks like it's like Young Hu Ku, but it's Young Wei Ku apparently. So I like to get them. I like to get the pronunciations right when I can.
I try.
Having said that, folks, that we are Amazing Fantasy Football. Thank you for tuning in. You can check out Chris at his Twitch channel, which is hardware. I'm sorry, twitch.tv/hardware dynasty.
Mhm.
You can also check us out on our Twitch channel. Here in 1 month, we will be doing at least the first round of the real NFL draft. Will be we like I said at the top of the show, we will be in Chris's basement studio together for the first time, and I don't remember the last time I even visited you. So, and
Couple years.
It's not like Chris is like on the other side of town. He lives in a different state, folks. So it's kind of a big thing that we
Yeah,
get
it's
together.
not. We're being careful for the pandemic, but if we lived down the street, we
I am
probably would have seen each
vaccinated, and
other.
he's going to try and be by the time we
I'm
get it
trying.
done. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
I'm certainly, and
I was
Chris
trying to get
doesn't
it
know
done
this
before
yet, but
Easter. That's what happened.
Chris doesn't know this yet, but I am definitely, especially if he's not vaccinated by 2 weeks beforehand, I will not be going anywhere but other than the store and work for those 2 weeks, just to try and keep his family
Play it
safe.
safe. Yeah, exactly.
Um, I love his family a lot. They're great people. I don't like him as much as his family, but hey, you
He
gotta take
tried
your
to do
lumps
the
where you,
podcast with them, but they refused.
they don't like fantasy football.
No.
His one daughter wanted to talk about being fed, and the other one wanted to talk about unicorns, and his wife was just like, I don't care, why am I here?
Let me sleep.
um, can I please leave? And I was like, I guess just put Chris back on. Anyways, we
Fine.
want you all, and you can always email us at amazingffb@gmail.com. You can leave us some constructive criticism, tell us what you do like about the show. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check us out in podcast format for those times when maybe you want to
Like,
listen
share,
to
and
us in the car.
subscribe.
Yes, like, share, and subscribe. Please tell your friends about us, your enemies, your frenemies, whatever. I know we're in the off season at the moment. That's cool. We get it. But when you get closer to fantasy time, you start thinking about your drafts and everything. Just remember to check us out. I've done a few videos on some players. I did Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, not a Browns fan, and
Oh,
now
that's right.
recently I just did Robert Woods, which came out last night. Next week or the week after, I will be doing Chris Carson. I have a big regular job workload coming up, so I'm not sure exactly when it'll be coming out. I'm going to shoot for Friday, but we'll see.
And
But
I'll be
Chris
doing
Carson is my
some
next
rookie
video.
and dynasty stuff.
Exactly. I was just going to say that Chris is going to be doing some rookie/dynasty stuff, which I can't wait to check out because I am a dynasty fantasy football rookie. So I will be listening to him and telling him he is wrong because I just don't want to. I don't want to admit that he's right.
He'll be in the YouTube comments. Oh my God, this guy is so far off base.
And it's not that I don't respect his opinion; it's that I just don't want him to be right. um. Anyways, so that's been our show. Thank you for watching or listening if you're listening in podcast format. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Keep wearing those masks. Get whatever vaccine you can. Don't be name brand specific. They all work. Thank you, everyone. Have a good bye.
Peace out.